and want to have even better sex or longer sex because you realize, wow, okay, I don't have to make the focus my cock. Like, I can focus on all these other things, which actually heightens the whole pleasure around the situation, because it's like, okay, it's not just about body parts now. It's about this whole experience.
Hey guys, welcome to the What I Love About Men podcast. My name is Steph Ganowski, and as a men's coach, I am on a mission to help men prioritize themselves, take ownership over their challenges, set boundaries in their relationships, and much more, all while adding a female touch and perspective. I hope this podcast helps you. We need you men, and as a woman, I'm rooting for you. Enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the What I Love About Men podcast. So before I get started, I want to thank you guys who are leaving ratings on iTunes. If you can go and leave a rating after this episode, it would be fucking awesome, and I would so much appreciate it. I'm really trying to hit 100 ratings by the end of the year, and I'm at 88, so it shouldn't be hard at all. So if you have 2 seconds now, you can pause the episode, or after the episode, just scroll to the bottom of iTunes and rate your level of stars that you find appropriate to this show. And like I said, I would appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about your dick. Jumping onto the topic, the feeling of anxiety around your dick size can, I'm sure, be overwhelming. And obviously I do not have a dick. I have never experienced this, but I have talked to men who do feel very overwhelmed, anxious, insecure, concerned, and the list goes on. Most of these men actually end up having average penis size. So, by the way, I'm going to go back and forth between dick and penis and maybe cock. I don't know. But yeah. So what I find interesting is that even guys who are average have a lot of anxiety, lots of anxiety. And you have to understand that when it comes to anxiety, especially when you have an average penis size, it's not so much about the size. It becomes more about the expectations of sex and how you feel you're judged by people. Often especially men who are people pleasers in general, feel a lot more anxiety around their dick size, because it's like, all right, well, this is how people view me. This is where body image actually really gets to us most, is we feel like, all right, well, this is how I'm perceived by the outside world. And if my body is failing to show the appropriate perception, then I'm not coming across as I truly feel inside, and I feel like my body's doing me a disservice. And we start to feel shame around our bodies. We start to hate our bodies because it's like it's not giving the right picture to the surrounding people or experience. So because we have this body image issue is really what it is. When you feel inadequacy around a certain part of your body, it is very hard to release it until you release the expectations included. So, the expectations for a lot of men with either a small penis or an average size penis is that, I won't be able to please the right way or enough. I won't be sexually enough for my partner. And that's a feeling of lack of worthiness, right? It's like, I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I maybe won't be accepted. So it's not a great feeling, but first, let's get started on actually knowing where you are in your relationship with your dick. First of all, do you even know how big your dick is? Many guys don't know because they haven't measured, or they haven't measured properly, or they just don't even want to measure because there's so much anxiety there. Even when they do measure, sometimes they're just like, oh, well, I don't believe that's average, or that I'm average. I'm definitely small, blah, blah, blah. So you have to actually, first, let's get clear on your size, get clear on where you're at. So just for those of you who don't know how to measure yourself properly, you want to start at the top of your penis, at the head, the tip of the head, and measure in a straight line along the top. All right, because if you measure underneath, you you get interrupted by the taint. If you measure along the top, you hit the pubic bone. So that's where you want to measure from, the tip of the head to the pubic bone, and make sure that, you know, there's no like hair in the way, there's no fat in the way. As long as you get to the pubic bone, that is an accurate measurement. So that's the length of your penis, okay? If you want to measure girth, because I know a lot of you guys have asked me on Instagram, you know, there's a lot of talk about the length, but I'm actually very insecure about my girth. And girth is part of your penis size, right? So we definitely want to talk about that as well. And what you want to do is get a flexible measure tape and measure around the middle of the shaft. So wherever the widest part is of your dick, you want to wrap the tape measure around, and you can expect about like 4 inches is the average, maybe a little less is the average girth size. So the average penis size is 5.5 to 6 inches. So that just gives you an idea of average length and girth, but also that doesn't mean that you can't please your woman or please your partner if you are below that. Okay? And even if you are there, you know, you have to understand that the G spot is only about 2 inches up inside a woman. So that is what is needed to provide full satisfaction anatomically, physiologically. So that's what you need. You need to know how to, and a lot of guys, when I put a dick post out this week, a few guys are saying it's the motion of the ocean. It's not the boat, it's the motion of the ocean or something like that, which is very true. It's how you use it, right? Like I've been with guys with big dicks and they just were poking me and didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So it doesn't matter what size dick you have. It's a matter of how you use it and how confident you feel with it. Okay, so that is definitely the most important part, because if you know how to work your body, feel good in your body, and have, just feel proud of your penis to an extent, then it comes across, and it comes across with a sexual confidence, and that sexual confidence makes good sex. So that first part is just get clear on where you're at. Understand, measure your dick, get clear about it, know where you are, and know that even if you're below average, there are still ways to increase pleasure. Also know that, the main question I get is, does size really matter? And a ton of people will say, no, not at all, it doesn't. And then a bunch of people say, of course it does, how can it not, blah, blah, blah. My answer to this is that it does and it doesn't. It depends who your partner is, okay? Because there will, of course, be women who have maybe fetishes for big dicks, or just simply prefer a certain size dick, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We all have our preferences. Some guys only date blondes, so we do things based on our preferences. But is it as big of a deal to women as men think? No. It's just another thing that's like a preference. Of course, a woman wants to know that she can be satisfied. I think that's the concern around a certain size dick. But if she finds that she can be satisfied with that size, then it can be just out of mind. It's not like a huge concern. So no, women aren't like talking about, oh my God, like what was the exact size of his penis? Oh my God, you're so lucky, he's so big. That's not how the conversations go. It's just, how was he in bed? Oh, he was so good. He ate me out for like an hour. Oh, fuck, I want that. That's like how our conversations go when we're talking about good sex. Believe it or not, it's mostly talk about oral, not so much about dick, or the size of the dick. Even if we do mention dick, it will be like, oh, how's his dick? Oh, does he have a nice cock? It's kind of like that. And it's like, oh yeah, he really does. We hardly go into like, yeah, it was 8 inches. It was 9 inches. Oh my God, you're so lucky. Like that never, at least in my conversations, we never talk about like specific size. That is hardly, I won't say never, but it's hardly in the conversation. So yeah, so it might come up when we're talking about giving head, and it's like, oh, like he was a little tough to give head to because he was so big, but it was still so hot, or something like that. Like that's when like big dick will come into conversation, or you know, he was easy to give head because he wasn't too big, so it was like I wasn't killing my throat. You know, so sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes, of course, sometimes women are like, he's not the size I really want, but he is really good. Or sometimes it's just he's a little small, like he didn't like fill me up completely. So that occasionally, I probably had one conversation like that. No joke, like my entire life, where someone was like, yeah, he was too small for me. So that is just not common. You know, I feel like a lot of guys think that women get together and talk about the guy's size and complain about the size. That's not, at least that's not what I do with my girlfriends and the women I've spoken with. So just to give you some peace of mind there, we all have insecurities, right, guys? Like we all have body insecurities. There's always something that isn't good enough, right? Or is ugly in our eyes, or just is inadequate. And that's very normal. And I understand that your dick being one of those things can feel a little daunting as a man. I know a lot of guys tie their masculinity and their manhood to their cock. That's like how they define themselves as a man. And that's really sad, because that's not how you should define yourself. But it does happen, and I see why. There's a lot of focus and attention on, you know, in the media, and just society makes dick size out to be this majorly important thing that like should be focused on, when it's just not. It's not that important in the grand scheme of things. It's what are your sexual skills? You know, like are you actually being able to please yourself and please the partners you're with, or your partner? So just keeping that in mind. I did want to mention something else before I moved on, and I forgot, but that is okay. If it pops up, I'll just say it. Because this is my show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is, and this is a good segue, is focusing more on your strengths sexually. Okay? Because when you feel inadequate about one part of yourself sexually, especially your dick, right? Sometimes it makes guys turn away from dating completely. And they don't want to have sex because they're so concerned about the size of their dick and that it won't be good enough that they avoid women, they avoid sex. They might even avoid looking at their dick, or they look at their dick and they think certain things every time they look at it. And do that enough, it's going to build a lot of energy and resentment and shame, self-shame, sexual shame, without you even really knowing that you're doing it habitually. You know, if every time you look at your dick and you feel inadequate, you're literally training yourself to feel more inadequate as a man. Like, you don't realize that's you neurowiring your brain to feel like you're not good enough. You're not good enough of a man. So we don't want to do that shit. Don't do that shit. If you're doing that shit now, we gotta step back and you gotta change your wording. Okay? So next time you catch yourself talking down to your penis, talk it back up. Okay? I don't mean literally, but like, you know what I mean? You're just saying, you know what? I'm okay. I'm going to work with what I got. You know, it doesn't have to be like, I love my dick, but at least acknowledge your dick for being there and what you like about it. You know, it's kind of like, all right, I may not be the size I want to be, but I do like how long I last. And I do like the feeling of my orgasm and how much I ejaculate. You know, I really like how, you know, whatever you like about your dick, start pointing out those things, because I'm sure there are parts of your penis that you really enjoy, and those parts of the relationship to you and your dick are being clouded by this self-judgment and criticism of the length or girth. You know, and like we talked about, that is not the most important part of your dick. It's how are you using the dick that you were given. How are you using it? And are you even using it? Because just going back to what I just said, some guys are just like, I don't even want to use it then. You know, I have so much shame around it. I don't even want to use it. So when you fall into that trap, you have less experience you have less of a relationship with your dick, and you actually feel less and less sexually confident because you're not using it. You know, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's probably hopefully you don't lose your dick, but you know what I mean? You lose the confidence in the skill sets that you can be building right now. You don't have to just ignore it. You can actually be building your sexual confidence by acknowledging, hey, what are my strengths in bed? What am I proud of when it comes to my dick? What am I really good at? So I want you to think about that right now. Like, what are your sexual strengths? And just like I talked about, when it comes to pleasing women, we honestly focus more and talk about more your oral skills. I said that sentence really weird, but we are more so to talk about what is he like, how did he go down on you, and that's like the more descriptive thing that we talk about versus actual sex. Like we'll say like, how was the sex? But a lot of the time the description is around the oral sex because that's where the majority of women feel fully pleasured. So it's really a matter of like taking the expectations off of, all right, I have to have like the perfect penis to get her off and for me to come across like this sexy guy. No, you just have to know what you're doing. So understand right now, like, what are you happy about? Like I mentioned, what do you take pride in when it comes to your dick and the things that it can do? And even, you know, at the age you're at, because sometimes age can get in the way too. And you think, oh, well, now that I'm older, things don't work as well. But when you age, certain things work better. And maybe not physically, but mentally. Like you have a better understanding of how to use your dick or when to do certain things. Or you have amplified your skill sets when it comes to giving oral or receiving oral. You know, maybe you have a better idea of how much she has to, you know, give you head before you pull back and maybe do something else to keep that intensified pleasure. Like whatever it may be, acknowledge the skill sets that you've grown along the way, along with age, especially. So yeah, these are just things to point out basically are what are my strengths? What are my skill sets? What am I good at in bed? What do I feel like women really praise me for when I'm having sex with them or pleasuring them or just fondling them? Like, what am I good at? Am I really good at touching? Am I really good at speaking to them? Like my dirty talk? Am I really good at, you know, think of the senses. Am I really good at eye contact? A lot of guys surprisingly are very uncomfortable with it. And it's one of the sexiest things to have eye contact in bed. So there's all these little things that don't involve your dick and still make the sex so much better. Because sex isn't just about penis and vagina. Sex is about the eye contact. It's about whispering in their ear. It's about feeling up and down their leg. It's about licking their inner thigh. It's about breathing heavily on their neck. It's about, you know, just touching the body fully up and down without any body parts inside one another. Like that is sex. Sex is not just the actual intercourse. Or insertion. So when you think of it like that, you kind of expand not only like your knowledge around sex in general, but also your skill sets, and you start to see other parts of you that you're really good at and that you can acknowledge and that make you want more sex and want to have even better sex or longer sex because you realize, wow, okay, I don't have to make the focus my cock. Like I can focus on all these other things, which actually heightens the whole pleasure around the situation because it's like, okay, it's not just about body parts now. It's about this whole experience. And that's what it really should be. And in porn, what are we seeing? We're seeing a highlight reel, right? We're not seeing, I just read this book and it was cool because there was this metaphor they used where it's like porn is like a baking show. You know, like you see in porn, you see the highlights and you just see him shoving his huge cock in her really dripping wet pussy, right? And that's what you see. And then the next scene right away is another girl sucking his cock. And then you're like, whoa. And it's like, just like highlight. And just as the same in baking. I really do like this metaphor though. Because in a baking show, you don't see them like getting out the flour and opening up the bag and spilling it all over the fucking place. And it's just a mess. You see them like, you see it once it's in the bowl and it's being stirred. And like, you don't see them getting the eggs and just like, you know, like the little in-between stuff that's like boring but real and has to be part of the process. You know, just like in porn, like in between those highlights, what are they doing? They're maybe, you know, getting more lube for this woman to appear more wet, right? And they're like, maybe the guy is having problems staying hard, so they pause the video and they get him to get his erection back. So we're not seeing that stuff. We're not seeing the stuff that's just normal and real. We're seeing the highlight. And I'm not blaming porn. I think that to a certain extent, porn can really get in the heads of guys who do comparisons with their dicks. And that porn is definitely not something to compare your dick to because they're just abnormally large. And I should say above average. I don't want to say anything's outside the norm. I'll say above average. But that's the point. That's why they're hired. It's to grab attention. It's to be this like, wow, holy shit factor, when really most women can't tolerate that size dick. Or just wouldn't want to, you know, it's like uncomfortable. So some women love it though. So for you guys who do have big, huge dicks, like that's great. Good for you. Like you will definitely find a lot of women into you. So where was I going? Oh shit, I was going to say something else, but yeah. So when it comes to porn, oh yeah, I'm not blaming porn completely, but I do think it gets in your heads. I actually think porn can be a very useful tool, and I am actually pro-porn to a certain extent, and I'll do another episode on that in the future. But when it comes to you guys who feel like, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm definitely, I feel like I can't fill her up, and it's embarrassing or it's shameful. Like, it's about finding ways, and this is the next part I want to go into, like finding things to add to your sex toolbox. All right. So maybe now you're at the point where it's like, all right, Steph, I get what you're saying. Like I'm going to be more accepting of my dick and how I think and talk to my dick. I'm also going to, I'm going to point out the strengths of what I love most about my sexual skills or about my dick. And if you realize, all right, I do realize that eye contact is something I feel really confident in. Dirty talk, I feel really confident in. My dick, not so much. So what can I do there? Like, what can I add to my sex toolbox that will help in the lower area, my dick area? And that can be toys. You know, a good solution to that can be, okay, can I go get a certain type of dildo that I can use to put inside of her even with my cock? Like, can I do that? Or can I ask her if she's into anal sex, or if she wants to try anal, where a smaller dick feels much more comfortable? You know, so it's kind of like, what can I add to my sex toolbox? So now you're recognizing what you have in your toolbox and you're acknowledging it as a good thing. All right, cool. I have all these things. These are my confidence boosters. These are what I feel really good about sexually. But I want to feel even better because it would make me want to please more and have more sex with my partner. It would make me want to start dating again. Whatever the thing is, like, what's the one thing that you want to add into your toolbox to make you feel like, okay, like this will get me excited for sex again. This will get me excited for self-pleasure again. You know, maybe you're just turning away your dick even to yourself. and you don't masturbate as much, or when you masturbate, you just do it for the feeling and you don't really embrace or feel good about your body. So what will help you do that? Like, what will help you even self-pleasure to in a better way? And sometimes it could be a cock ring. Sometimes it can be what I said, like getting a certain dildo and asking her what she wants to do more of to feel more fullness or whatnot. And maybe it's different toys where it just makes the whole experience a little different, and it just adds something. If you're feeling like, you're not able, even if you're not able to last long, or you feel like you're not long enough, or you feel like you're just not thick enough, like what are other things you can add to this experience to make you even feel more confident and to make the sexual experience as a whole just more fulfilling and rewarding and fun. So this is something to think on, and I want you guys to know that you are man enough. Regardless of your dick size, you are enough. You are strong men, and you are deserving, and you don't need a cock to prove that you're valuable or good enough. Okay? And keep that in mind. But keep these three points in mind of acknowledging the dick that you got, acknowledge it for what it is. Okay? Accept it, change your self-talk around it. Know what you're good at. What are your sexual skill sets? Get clear on them. Focus on them so that you're not focusing on the opposite. And then what can you add to your sex toolbox so that you feel even better about your sex life or your sexual identity or your self-pleasure? What do you want to add? All right, so I hope these help you. And like I said, please leave a review on this podcast. All you got to do is scroll down really quick and tap the amount of stars that you believe this podcast is worth. Hopefully it's 5. I'm crossing my fingers. But thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. And if you are not following me on Instagram, head on over there, because I'm doing multiple reels on Instagram around the topic of sex, and it's just really fun. I'm in my stories, hanging out, getting you guys to interact with my email list. If you haven't joined my email list, please join, because this week's topic is going down on her like a god. So you're not going to want to miss that. If you do miss it, I can't send it to you, so you have to make sure that you get it on time. And that is it. Have an amazing morning, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world, and I'll talk to you soon.